And hello, everybody. We are back. And this is going to be an interesting show. This is, I don't know, maybe the first real episode of The Conspiracy Show, the Marshall Hart Podcast Conspiracy Show. Because if you don't know anything about me, which you may not, because I'm not famous or anything, one of my greatest loves has been conspiracy theories. And I have been reading, researching, studying, debunking, sometimes believing conspiracy theories since the mid-'80s. I know that's a long time. So it's given me a lot of experience, and I am sort of known, at least I was at one time, as the debunker guy, the guy who debunked all of the conspiracy theories. Most of them anyway, the ones that I felt like debunking. Not all of them are worth my time. Some of them are just too stupid that you can't really justify spending any time working on them. But the ones that I found interesting and fun, I like to look into. So I want to do these conspiracy shows because my regular podcast is about me having a heart attack, a couple of heart attacks, actually I think 4 over the course of, anyway, and recovering from it, trying to get back to a normal life, going through the cardiac rehab, talking about how I feel every day, which isn't always good. Sometimes it sucks. And right now they're experimenting with the medications. They took me off of one of the blood pressure regulation medications because they're going to put me on a heart monitor. And that would, skew the readings that they're going to get. They want to get a true and pure reading of what my blood pressure in my heart is doing. So, in order to do that, they have to take me off of those medicines that are going to regulate those things. They want to find this arrhythmia that I've been experiencing and stuff like that. So, the last couple of days have sucked. My blood pressure is up. When it goes up, I have these weird reactions, like my heart will pound in my chest. I'll have the pressure in my chest. And it's just generally unpleasant. I feel like, my face is, sunburned sort of. But anyway, it sucks. And talking all day long, every day about, I just had a heart attack and I want to recover, it can be depressing. So one of the keys to getting better is to, have some fun, be positive. And this is one of the things that I get a kick out of is conspiracy theories. So I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to occasionally do a show about conspiracy theories. There's quite a lot going on right now, and there's quite a few that are actually directly in my wheelhouse from when I used to do this publicly a lot and was very active online. I even wrote a book about the conspiracy mindset once that was it was a fun kind of book. It wasn't meant to be a serious scientific endeavor because it wasn't. But conspiracy theories even show up in my fictional novels because it's fun. Everybody wants to believe something. And but a lot of the things that are going on today that are in the news this week are directly in my wheelhouse. I'm talking about active measures and manipulation of the media and things like that. And the reasons behind it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But the first, is this thing on? This is the Shure SM58 microphone, handheld microphone. It's a dynamic microphone. It's considered the industry standard for vocal microphones. There are microphones that are said to be better than this one, but if it's not as good as this one, you shouldn't be using it for any kind of public performance, because this is the standard you have to meet or exceed in order for it to sound worth a shit. When you're doing a performance, like a streaming, recording, live performance on stage, when you see somebody holding a microphone on stage, screaming into it, it's usually one of these, an SM58, and they are said to be the most durable microphones ever invented. I guess they were designed in the 50s, and everything designed and built in the 50s was built to survive a nuclear attack, and this is one of them. People have been making videos of driving nails with them, driving over them with their vehicles, and then reusing them, throwing them in the ocean, and digging them back up. And they always just continue to work, and they're considered like really just it's the I don't know. There isn't even anything to compare it to. I don't know. Maybe it's the AK-47 of microphones. It doesn't matter what you do to it. You pick it up, it's going to keep firing. So, anyhow, I got one because audio recording is its own rabbit hole that you wind up going down. So, I'm recording this particular show with the SM58 microphone with a pop filter on it because with this type of microphone, I need to be close to it because I'm not going to yell into it. So I need the pop filter because even if I turn to the side like you're supposed to and all that, I'm still popping. And so I got this cheap little pop filter for it. It's not even, like an official one for a Shure SM58. But I'm recording it through a Behringer Xenix Q802 USB mixer, which is an 8-channel mixer. I think it's 8 channels. I don't know. It has like 5 more channels than I need because really I was just looking for something that was a high quality that could run 2 microphones because here in the house, not in the house, in my multi-million-dollar recording studio, which is behind the couch in the loft, the most I'm going to do up here is have myself and somebody else, sitting down to talk. So I needed something that could run 2 microphones and mix them together and have really good sound quality. So I was looking for that. The first one was a failure. The second one was defective. So I sent them a nasty letter and sent it back for a refund. And I found this one used on eBay. And so I gave it a shot. When I first got it, it was so scratchy. Every time you touched it or moved it or turned a knob, it was like... So I got contact cleaner and I just cleaned the crap out of it, all the pots and everything, and all the knobs, took all the knobs out and exercised everything with the contact cleaner. And now the knobs are great. They're not doing that. I'm going to move a knob just to let you know. See, you can't even tell. See, I'm moving a knob. But it has great sound to it, especially a lot of it's this microphone. This microphone supposedly is going to sound great no matter what you're running it through. But if you find I'm learning that if you find a good audio interface, even a cheap microphone will sound good through it. So I have a couple of cheap microphones that I've experimented with, and they do sound great going through this thing. And I'm probably going to sell it back on eBay because I don't need it. So here's what happens when you go down the audio recording rabbit hole. You wind up with 7 microphones, 4 microphone stands, 3 audio interfaces, and 2 mixers that you're never going to use. And that's like the beginner's level of audio recording rabbit hole conspiracies. Because I'm just assuming that that's normal because that's exactly what happened to me. And that's so there's stuff that I have to turn around and sell back on eBay because it's things that once you have it and you start playing around with it, you're like, I don't really need this. This isn't actually what I needed. And now I'm stupid. So I'm going to turn around and sell it. Because when you're first starting out, you're not going to sit down and research. I tried a little bit. I'm one of those people that's like, I need to look into this and research it. But I don't overdo it because I'm eager and I'm not patient. So I'm like, I gotta grab this thing. I gotta get this deal, and I'm gonna order this, and that's what I'm gonna use to do this. And you get ahead of yourself. And so I have some things that are probably not going to be used, and so I'm going to have to reevaluate those. And eBay, I'll sell them back. I sell stuff on eBay fairly often, so it's not any big deal. And I sold things on eBay to get the money to buy these things in the first place, so it's not like I was throwing money away. So I'm just kind of breaking even at this point. But that's That's how it works. But this microphone, like I said, it's considered the industry standard. It's considered one of the best microphones ever invented. And, most of your audio experts are going to tell you if you don't have one of these, you should have one no matter what. No matter what you're doing, you should have one of these microphones because no matter what goes wrong, you can pull one of these out of a case and plug it in, and it's going to do exactly what it's supposed to do. Because, like I said, it's the AK-47 of microphones. So it's like even if you have something cooler than that, then you should have one of these as a backup mic. So I have one, and I'm doing this show with it. This one. The next episode, I'll probably be using something else because rabbit hole. But I'm not even going to get into it. I have several microphones now, and I'm really surprised at the sound quality that you get out of inexpensive microphones now. And actually it was the 802. The guy just sent everything he used with it. And he was an actual, audio guy, and this was in his studio. And it was only one of the things in his studio, but it was something that he used. He tuned it to what he needed it to be, and it stayed that way, and it was just plugged in all the time with those exact same settings. But when he sent along, all the cables that you need for it, and he sent along a Behringer microphone that may have come with this as a package deal when he bought it. And you can buy those microphones for like $20, $20 to $25. It looks like an SM58. It very similar anyway. It has a similar weight and feel, but it's, a quarter of the cost. This is about $100 microphone. And the Behringer is, if it's on sale, you might be able to get it for less than $25, but they're averaging about $25. And so you can get 4 of them for the cost of one of these. And I plugged it in, and I couldn't really tell the difference. I was going back and forth between the two microphones, this one and the Behringer. It's the XM8500, I think is what it is. I don't have it out right now, but I think that's what it is. And but it's their 8500. I don't remember what the number or the letters in front of it were. And this one has a little deeper tone, so this one kind of comes from the factory already a little bit tweaked for the human voice because it's meant to be a vocal microphone. And the other one is a little bit wider range. So, but the sound quality coming out of them, I couldn't really tell the difference that much. And granted, I'm half deaf. So I'm probably not hearing all those little frequencies and changes and stuff that a lot of people do. But to me and my half-deaf ears, there wasn't enough of a difference for me to justify buying a bunch of these and not a bunch of those. So I don't know. But that's the rabbit hole you go down. And so that's how we're starting this show. That's the first conspiracy. I think it's intentional that, and it, just like any other industry, they're like, we just came out with the best thing ever. And then 6 weeks later, they're like, well, actually, this one's the best thing ever. And then next year, it's like, version B is the best thing ever. And then some other company comes out with something and says, hey, you think their version B is awesome? Our version C is better. Look at these results, So they're constantly talking you into buying more stuff that you don't need. And I'm learning that the most expensive stuff isn't the best stuff all the time. These Behringer audio interfaces and mixers are not as expensive as the state-of-the-art, top-of-the-line things, but these are like workhorses. They're incredibly reliable. They have great sound quality coming out of them, at least the ones that I have, and they are considerably less expensive than a lot of other devices. So the value that you're getting and the quality for the price and all of those things, when you start adding them up, hey, I don't know at this point, and believe me, I'm going to be testing and going through a couple of others. But for my money right now, the Behringer stuff, I don't see any reason to buy anything that's 3 times as expensive or 4 times as expensive, unless you're in a studio and you're going to record, Molly Hatchet's latest album. I don't even know. Are they still a thing? Are they still a band? That might be another conspiracy we'll have to go down. But if you're just a guy or a girl or a couple or a throuple, whatever you are, going to sit down and do a podcast a couple times a week, and you want it to sound good and have equipment that's fairly simple to manage and is not going to, force you to go get a second job. I don't know. The Behringer stuff seems to be pretty good stuff. I recorded 2 audiobooks and several podcast episodes using the smaller version of this, the 302, which only has 5 inputs, but only 1 microphone input, 1 XLR. So, and I don't know, I have absolutely no complaints about that. The only reason why I started looking for other ones is because I needed more mic inputs. In this case, I wanted one that had 2, and now, of course, I have one that has 4, and that may be the best thing I've purchased so far. But it is a gigantic rabbit hole. So the other conspiracies in the news, you may have seen it. I think it started yesterday. The Iranians hacked into the Trump campaign and then sent the information to the Harris campaign. And Russia and Iran have been working together quite a lot lately. You might have heard about Iran's drones that Russia is using in their war in Ukraine. So, they're cozy. They've always kind of been cozy anyway, but Iran is trying to flex its own muscles and is trying to become, a respectable power. And they are in a lot of ways, but Russia is kind of helping them along. Russia has always helped anybody who didn't like us. And that's, I don't know. And no matter what anybody says, after the 91 coup and the collapse of the Soviet Union and all of that, and everybody was like, Russia is our friend. No, they're not. They've never been our friend. I keep telling people that. I've been telling people that, I don't know, since 1991. They have never been our friend, and they will never be our friend. Russia's main point of existence is to be our adversary. They exist in order to oppose us. That's kind of the philosophy of their entire nation. So, not the people, but their governments, especially now when they have this, these oligarchs running the country, and Putin is like incredibly corrupt. The corruption is just insane in that country. But anyhow, why would they do that? Why would Iran hack the Trump campaign and then send the information to the Harris campaign instead of just taking the information and leaking it out all over the internet? Well, these active measure type things, these Russia, Iran, and China, their goal is to just sow chaos. They don't really care. Like when you hear Putin say, I'm going to endorse Harris in this election cycle or whatever, he doesn't mean that. He doesn't give 2 shits who gets elected. He really doesn't. As long as the United States is at each other's throats, as long as we're a divided nation and we can't get our own shit together and solve our own problems, they're happy. They don't care, because all that does is take pressure off of them, because they're like, you guys have too many problems of your own. I don't have to worry about you coming over here and kicking my door in and punching me in the face. So they want us to be in a constant state of chaos. And what's it been like for the last 8-10 years or so? It has gotten so much worse that people don't even recognize it now. But they could have. What that does, anyway, they hack one and send the information to the other one, unsolicited, by the way. They didn't care. They're like, wait, what is this crap that somebody's sending us? It's because the Trump campaign gets to use it as a talking point of, hey, they hacked our stuff. They got information from Iran about our campaign. And if the other campaign wanted to use it, the other campaign could be like, look at this crap that we found when Iran hacked that, server at the Trump campaign. So it gives both of them the ability to make an issue out of what Iran did, and it becomes less of an issue of Iran did it than it does he said, she said. Hey, literally this campaign. Anyway, he said, she said about what happened and what was actually in that information, because the Harris campaign was smart enough to go, we're not using any of this crap, because they understand why it's being done. So it doesn't matter what they found in there. It could have been emails, talking about pizza deliveries or whatever. And, you're going to have all these Pizzagate wackos coming along and talking about it someday, I'm sure. But I don't know if we're ever going to see the information that was hacked and leaked out of the Trump campaign, but it probably wasn't important. But the thing that it's going to do is people are going to use it. They're going to make up some sort of importance to it. Again, like Pizzagate. But so it's really just a way of sowing discord and creating chaos. They don't care. Iran doesn't care who gets elected. They just want us to stay busy with our own stuff and stay in our own yard. Because when we're, united as the United States and we're determined, we're essentially unstoppable. And people saw that after 9/11. The rest of the world saw that after 9/11. They sort of saw it, going on 100 years ago, where if you wanted a war to end, you asked us to come and play. And so, or you make a mistake and you decide to bomb our boats. And as people have been saying, it's a meme now. Don't touch the boats. If you touch the boats, you're done. We can put up with a lot of other stuff. But if you touch one of the boats, any size boat, we're going to kick your ass. So why that is, I don't know. They have this weird thing about boats. They're very expensive. That might have something to do with it. But 9/11, number one, we're the most powerful military on the planet. And if you take the next 5 militaries and combine them, they probably are not as strong as we are. They have way more people, but they don't have the technology, the training, and the capabilities to use those troops on a global scale like we do. We can put troops on the ground anywhere in the world in 24 hours and have them shooting people. And it's things that we've done in the past. So don't say we can't actually do that. These rapid deployment forces, that's been a concept that our military has been using for decades now, that we can put boots on the ground anywhere in the world in 24 hours and have them shooting bad guys. And in most cases, it's less than that. So, you're not going to have at scale 500,000 of them. Man, even shut up. So, 9/11, they saw what we were willing to do and what we could do. And when Kabul fell, and you're going to have to do a little research on your own. So I want you to go out there and see if you can figure it out. See if you can find it. Here's your homework assignment. How many U.S. troops were on the ground when Kabul, Afghanistan fell, when the Taliban were overthrown and fled? How many U.S. troops were on the ground? Go look that up somewhere. Because I think you're going to be surprised, very surprised. Because it doesn't take that many of us to do it, especially if you're some shithole third world country with no real governance, just a dictatorial or religious zealotry type government. It won't take that many of us. So getting enough of us there to impact something like a Russia or something, it's not as hard as people think, and we can do it a lot faster and a lot more effectively than any other country on earth. And we're not afraid to spend the billions and billions of dollars necessary to do it. Because, it's just money, right? It's just money. We'll just print some more. Whatever. It's fine. There's a conspiracy that you can go down on your own because it's way too deep for me to even start. I don't want to look into that. We'll just print some more money. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So that's what happened. The whole active measures, that's what's happening right now with Russia and Iran. That's what they're doing. And so the other thing that was in the news was the Tenet Media thing, where they figured out that this new media emerging, all these young people who were new voices of ultra-conservatism and things like that, was all funded by the Russians. Go figure. So the DOJ indicted 2 people from RT. I'm not even going to try to pronounce their names or whatever, but anyway, they indicted 2 foreigners from, what used to be called Russia today. Now they just call RT, who were behind this whole thing. They were funding it, and they spent millions of dollars paying these people like Tim Pool, Lauren Chen, Ben Johnson. Well, I forget some of these people's names. I don't have it right in front of me, so excuse me if I picked off some of the wrong people. But They were paying these people literally like hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a video or to blog. And it's insane. And nobody questioned where this was coming from or why. And that to me is kind of weird. If somebody came up to me and said, I need you to make a YouTube video and I'm going to pay you $400,000, I'd be kind of like, what? Is something wrong with you? If I was, Robert De Niro, maybe. If I was, Woody Harrelson, I don't know. Is he even famous anymore? Matthew McConaughey, uh, I don't know. Who's famous now? Who's the big kahuna when it comes to like famous actors now? I don't even know because movies suck now. But that maybe that would make sense. Like, we're going to do this campaign and we would like you to be involved and we're going to do this YouTube video. It's going to be a 30-minute long, kind of interview format thing. How about you jump in there? We'll pay you $500,000. Well, sure, I've got 30 minutes. Why not? Well, if you're just some dumbass who wears a beanie all day indoors in the summertime, something wrong with that guy. I swear to God. And I don't even want to get into it, but there's something wrong with that weirdo. If you're walking around wearing a beanie inside, there's something wrong with you. And I don't care about this whole, it's a generation. You're a moron. Take it off. Nobody cares that you're bald. Nobody cares. There's lots of bald people these days. People shave their head on purpose so that they can look bald. Stop it. Nobody cares. Anyway, see what happens to me when I get into these serious discussions, like beanies. Anyway, so nobody questioned where this money was coming from or why somebody was willing to pay them so much. And that, to me, doesn't make any sense. I would wonder, like, really? Why is this so important to you? And where is this money coming from? Because we're just starting out. You didn't tell me we have any investors. There isn't any ad revenue yet because no one even knows who we are at this point. Who's willing to pay me this much money just to do a YouTube video? Kind of strange. A little sus, as the kids would say. And so the idea that they didn't know where their where the bread was coming from, I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. And I think they're full of shit. I do. Maybe not all of them. Maybe one or two of them were duped. And, they're patsies. Who knows? But all of them, no. Some of them knew what was going on. Probably the ones who were getting paid the most knew what was going on, and they knew exactly where that money was coming from. And I would bet a paycheck on that. Unfortunately, my paycheck is nowhere near the size that theirs was. If I had known there was so much money in spreading Russian propaganda, I probably would have started doing that back in the 90s. Because I was there. So it would have been easy. But no, I wouldn't. So that's what's happening in the world today. And these things that people only imagined or people were discussing years ago and trying to explain to people that this was what was going on. And nobody believed them or thought they were overblowing it or exaggerating or yada, 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 pointing the fingers in the wrong direction. My favorite was, we do it too. No, we don't. No, we spread propaganda, sure. Everybody does. And especially if it's part of an intelligence operation or something like that. We do go out and we paint a rosy picture of the United States in our normal media and say, everything's so wonderful here. It's not always wonderful. We have our problems, and we don't highlight them to the world. But do we do the exact same things that these other countries are doing to us, trying to do to us? Nah, we don't. It's not our thing. Do we try it sometimes? Sure. But something about Russia and their long history of this type of activity, they're like the king dog of it. They're masters of this domain, this active measures propaganda domain. It really is their backyard. And we've played in it from time to time, and we've tried it, and we've failed, usually. So, when you're not good at something, you don't spend a lot of time doing it. So we take other approaches. But we don't have a U.S. news network spreading American propaganda sitting in Moscow. But Russia Today had an office in Washington, D.C. that, their reporters would attend political press conferences and military press conferences. It was interesting that, and we knew what they were doing. And people are going to say, but they were our friend. It wasn't the Russian government or whatever. No, it's bullshit. RT and all the other major news outlets in Russia are controlled by the government, even if it doesn't say they're controlled by the government. It's all state-run media. Putin and the Kremlin are not going to let anyone publish anything they don't want published. And if you do, it's likely that you may disappear. I don't know. Or if you sing the wrong song, you might wind up in prison. And that's how Russia deals with it. So don't tell me it's not Russian, government-controlled media. It's all government-controlled media. Because if you do media the government doesn't like, bad things happen to you. Like you may fall out of a window on the 3rd floor or 4th floor, which seems to be the leading cause of death for people who oppose Putin or people who criticize Putin. That seems to be the common cause of death. And I think the CDC needs to do some research on that and try to figure out what disease causes people to go flying out of freaking windows. Because it's running rampant in Russia. And in Germany, apparently, if you're Russian in Germany, sometimes you get thrown out of a window because you said something wrong. Or, we're playing Pussy Riot music, on your CD player or something. Because they're always quite a few years behind us, so they may not have iPods and stuff yet. Nobody has an iPod anymore, do they? I don't even know, but I'm not hip. So that's what they do. They're good at it. We're not as good at it. So we're getting really good at spotting it, really good at identifying it. But people are not getting really good at listening about that. So if you know who I am and my background, almost 10 years ago, I was writing about Russian active measures and how they were starting to control the media on the alt-right, the patriot media, the patriot organizations and the patriot movement were being controlled by the Russians and Russian propaganda. And no one, well, I won't say no one listened, but most people didn't want to believe it. Most, especially if they were right-wing people, they absolutely didn't want to believe it. They refused to believe it. And the right wing here in the United States, including the Republican Party, went out of their way to try to make sure that what I wrote about Russian active measures in 2015, before Trump entered the race, and before the 2016 election, when Russia was a thing, everybody was at least 2 years behind me when it came to this sort of stuff that I was putting out. But representatives of the Republican Party are the ones who went out of their way to prevent that information from being widely distributed. And one of these days I'm going to get on here and I'm going to name names and I'm going to tell people what happened. But it was members of the Republican Party who prevented the Patriot Deception articles from hitting a wider audience. And it's a complicated story. But they used some really just crooked as shit ways of doing it. And they know who they are. And if they're listening to this because they're still paying attention to what I'm doing, yeah, your day's coming. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. But it's not a threat. It's just one of these days I'm going to tell the world what you did. And, yeah, let the chips fall where they may. So there you go. Those are your 2 conspiracy theories, 3, I guess. Conspiracies of the week. You have the audio thing. You have the Iranian Trump-Harris campaign thing. And Tenet Media being run by the Russians, which was no surprise. I think that's enough for 1 week. But you need to get better at identifying these things and seeing them. And when you have an American who claims to be a patriot, who claims to be bipartisan or nonpartisan or whatever sort of partisan person that they're going to claim to be, while they claim to be a patriot and a constitutionalist and a true American. And they're pushing the Russian side of things and supporting Russia while it's invading its sovereign neighbor, which started 10 years ago, by the way. Anybody who's talking about, oh, they invaded 2 years ago. No, they invaded in 2014. Where were you? The wider military operation, sure, it's been going on, for a couple of years. But Russia invaded Ukraine 10 years ago. I don't know. Suddenly everybody's like, oh, Russia. Blah, blah, blah. It's been going on for a decade. Anyhow, people need to learn to pay attention to what's happening in the world. But if you come across someone like that, and they're spitting out the same talking points that people from the Kremlin and Putin and his allies are spewing out all day long, there's probably a problem there. And that person is probably just a mouthpiece for the Kremlin, even though they're a proud American. Yada, 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 Steven Seagal. Yep. I don't know. Yeah, go check it. And many, many others. So, yeah, go figure out what it means to actually be an American. And then, act accordingly. So I'll be back. We'll talk about some more conspiracy theories now and then. And this will have its own little segment on YouTube. And if you don't enjoy it, just don't watch it. I don't care. It gives me something to do other than to sit around and explain to people what it was like for me to have a heart attack, which, as I've gone back to work now, I'm running into people I haven't seen in, weeks, and ran into people I haven't seen probably in months, but they heard about what happened. Yeah, well, I've explained what happened to me a couple of hundred times already just this week, explaining to people what it was like for me to have a heart attack and what recovery has been like so far. So, it gives me something to do other than that. And it's fun. I enjoy it. We'll talk about UFOs and stuff. This weird little conspiracy thing that I made. I made this. I know. It's weird the things you can do when you put your mind to it. But the regular podcast, the Marshall Hart podcast, is available on these outlets here. And I made this too. It's pretty amazing. So check it out. And when you get tired of hearing about my heart attack, come over here and listen to this one. And you can hear me rant about things that people don't care about and don't pay attention to anymore. But we'll talk about some alien stuff too, because I know some things that some other people don't. And will I divulge the truth? Well, anyway, we'll see. We'll see if the men in black show up and stop me first. All right. Well, thanks for joining me. If you stuck around to the end, leave a comment. If you think the SM58 microphone and this Q802 is a good sound quality and that it's been doing a great job during this podcast, let me know. And I'm going to try to put together the best ensemble of things so that I can get the best sound quality I can, the easiest. And there's no filters running on this. This isn't being put through any sort of filters or anything. It's running straight from the SM58 into the Behringer into my laptop. There's no filtering, nothing. So this is the sound of the microphone and this audio interface, period. That's it. There's no other magic taking place. So, if you're one of those guys who likes to talk audio stuff, let me know what you think. Let me know if there's some adjustments I would need to make on a mixer or something. Like you're like, hey, you're a little too high on the high end or something, whatever. I may not understand what you're saying, but feel free to say it down in the comments below. But okay, that's going to be it for today, folks. And I have an end screen we're going to see, but we'll see what happens. It's going to show you the regular podcast so that you leave here understanding, where you can find it, maybe. Anyway, take care. Bye-bye.